here to talk about them.
Nah.
We're here to talk about Legacy Sounds.
Legacy Sounds.
Guys, welcome to the Winners Podcast. My name is Shannon. Today, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Zack, Cameron.
Boom, boom, boom.
Today, our set looks a little bit different. We're trying something new for the new year. But so let us know what you think in the comments. Today, I'm excited, man. We have a special guest. We have a man of many hats. Many hats. And a lot of people know him and a lot of people don't know him. And the reason I say a lot of people don't know him because he's a big behind the scenes guy. Today we have on the couch, Mr. Andrew Maxwell.
Andrew Maxwell.
What's going on, Andrew? Man. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. I appreciate the opportunity and the honor to be on your podcast, the Winners Podcast today, man. So, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be good.
It's going to be good.
It's always going to be fun, man.
We like to have you on your toes a little bit.
You know, I say this a lot. This podcast has been kind of in the making in my head for like the last 2 years. And you have always been one of the people on the list to be on the podcast.
Appreciate that.
Just because of who you are and how you work, but then the many hats that you hold. So I can tell everyone what you do, but I rather you. So tell me exactly what your company is and what you guys offer.
So Legacy Sounds is a full-fledged production company. So pretty much what that means is that we do everything under the hat of the umbrella of production. So when you think about full-fledged concerts, conferences, live streaming, we do a ton of stuff with video. So we pretty much cater to all of the live in-person experiences that you would go for. So, and we consider ourselves we are a small business, but we have worked on, quite a few larger productions, which we are proud of, from that standpoint. So
yeah, small business with a punch.
Yeah. With a big punch. And, he's being light on the stuff he's done. Very light. But just recently you guys were in Atlanta for what?
Oh, so we were in Atlanta for the Revolt World. So if any of you guys follow Revolt and Revolt TV, we were working directly alongside with Superfly, which is a huge marketing agency. And so we were helping with all of the production behind the scenes with Revolt. So it was 6 different stages. A ton of people attended that event, a ton of crazy talent on those stages that were there. So that was a great opportunity.
Name drop a couple.
Well, right now there's a little bit of some controversy behind the stuff with Revolt. So I don't want to
Don't name drop.
You guys know if you know who's behind Revolt, you know what I'm talking about. So we don't have to.
Yes, I just put
2 and 2 together. All of a sudden. We're gonna be on YouTube, and all of a sudden there's gonna be no sound. You're just talking like,
just leave it alone.
So, I mean that's pretty huge. So before we get into that, tell me a little bit about how'd you find Legacy Sounds? Like, when did that start? How long has it been around?
Wow. So Legacy. So I LLC'd the business 10 years ago. So this past 2023. Was its 10 year from being.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So 10 years being a full-fledged LLC. The idea, so I've always been in what I would consider to be production, growing up in church, being behind the scenes. I say that, I laugh and joke and say my memoir title is going to be, I'm just a sound guy. Because I come from behind the scenes of sound. Sound is one of the things that I love the most. So when you talk about music and things like that. So to give you a little bit more of my background. So I've been playing drums since I was 7. Probably around the age of 10, 11, I was like, I like playing drums. But if any of you who have grown up in churches that don't have a lot of the technology and the things that, we have today, making drums sound good is a big challenge. Especially when you're coming from like a CB kit, which is one of the cheapest drum kits you can buy, that has drum heads that hasn't been changed in 5 years, or no drum heads.
Beat up cymbals.
Exactly. So one of the things I was like, I like playing drums, but I like making drums sound good even more. And not just drums, but then it went into piano and vocals and things like that. So that's where the background I came from. And then being an engineer, so after going off to college, always kept that whole mixing and everything behind. I was actually talking to somebody today about my first set of speakers that I bought. When I started out, actually saying, hey, I'll mix for you. I'll do this event for you. It was these 2 old 15-inch PVs. They were huge. Didn't have no money to buy no subs. I think I paid $200 a piece for them on sticks. Borrowed some microphones, had a small little mixing board, and I was literally volunteering to mix every single event that I could possibly think of. that's the inception of where it started from. Actually, the guy that I sold those PVs to still actually owns them to this day.
Oh, wow.
You should take a picture by them. Like,
Wow.
I still have some pictures of him. He actually contacted me a couple of years ago because he bought him to do a turkey run up in Connecticut.
Wow.
And he was like, he does a turkey run and he plays music off his porch. And he was like, I was looking for him. I listed him for sale. And he came and picked them up at the house. So those are still kicking. He pinged me, I think, a couple of years ago. And he was like, hey, man, is there anything more I could do with these? I was like, nah, man, those do as much as you're already
You're at
pushing
the
the max.
that's
Short of
fine.
getting more. But yeah, man, that is where we started, with stuff. And then when you talk about the video side of it, I love movies, man, and I've always loved movies. And so there's always been a love behind, understanding how cameras work and how movies were filmed and all that stuff. So I understood early on. And so if you rewind 10 years ago, I knew there was going to become a point where you couldn't separate sound from film. They had to join forces. So, and look at the world we are today with everything, right? Sound and video. So I understood back then that if I wasn't doing something, I couldn't just stay in sound alone. I had to actually bring both pieces together. And so I started probably about 10 years ago, the journey of pursuing the passion of film and filming and all that stuff behind it, and then putting the event pieces together and all of that stuff. And so that's how, 10 years later, the stuff that we do today with film and production and all that stuff together.
What's the movie of the year for you?
Movie of the year for me right now.
You have a couple weeks.
The year. So, all right. So I haven't seen it yet, but I am excited to see the remake of Color Purple. Only because
it was great.
So, okay, you've seen it. Only because, one, I think there's a lot of great filmmakers behind that movie.
Yeah.
I think the original movie was epic.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the original movie.
So, wait, time out.
Stop.
You're lying, bro.
No,
You're
I don't think
kidding
I
me.
have. I don't think I have.
All right.
I have to watch it, man.
Bro.
You're definitely going to have So, I don't think it makes sense to watch
I do want to watch
one.
the new one, but I have to watch the old one first.
Yeah.
The piece in my head that's the twist on it is that it's a musical.
It is.
Yes.
Versus
Very
the original
interesting.
movie
Fantasia.
was a drama. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see how, unless they went on a totally different tangent of we're making this into a musical and they're just telling the story in musical form, which I think could still be really wonderful. I'm hoping it's going to be great only because, Spielberg's name's behind it.
Yeah.
I love him as a
I think
filmmaker.
Oprah's in there, right?
Oprah's behind it,
involved.
exactly.
I think she's a producing executive.
Oh, she's
producer.
not.
She's not acting. No,
Oh.
it's like Fantasia's in it.
Oh, so they got some singers.
Yeah, they have some like
Taraji's on there, right?
Taraji's in it as well. There's a girl from Orange is the New Black. She's in it as well. I forgot her name, but she can sing. She can sing.
I just saw a clip of her and Fantasia singing.
Yeah. So
Let Go and Let God on TV.
Movie of
They
the
killed
year.
it.
So movie of the year for me would be John Wick 4. I'm a John Wick fan.
that's
man.
good. It's good.
And the part that also made it great for me was that at the same time where in the movie with the whole scene with the steps is that I was also in Paris this year.
Oh, did you see the
and
steps?
we were right there.
That's dope.
We were right there. So I was taking videos. I was like, yo, these are the exact same steps.
You saw it, right? I think I saw it with you.
I saw 3. I don't think I saw 4.
See,
okay.
yeah.
I
So
saw three
movies like
before.
that, I'm a collector. So I'm also because
have
of all, yeah. So any movies like that, I'm a full collector. Like for instance, so I have all the James Bond movies, every single James Bond movie. I have every single one of them. All of them in digital format. I bought all of them. I'm a huge James Bond fan.
Okay.
So that whole movie series, I love. John Wick series, I absolutely love. I don't know about
Fantastic.
some of the off skirts of what they're doing with the John Wick series. Just keep the originals.
The one on the show on Peacock is actually pretty good.
So I haven't watched it yet. So,
I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad. Like I enjoyed it. I know you didn't ask me, but the movie of the year for me
Yes, I was
is
glad.
totally Oppenheimer.
So I haven't seen that yet.
Oh my gosh.
So the other reason I know why I haven't seen it yet, one, from a video and a filming perspective, absolutely amazing. So
I
the
wish I would have
cinematography
saw
is
it in
crazy.
IMAX.
Yep.
I'm a movie
I
guy
haven't
too.
seen- I haven't seen it.
So another question for you: what's the first movie you saw in IMAX? Can you think back to see what the first movie you saw in
man.
IMAX?
Ooh, that's tough.
Because it's a whole different experience to watch a movie in IMAX.
I've never seen a movie in IMAX, and I wanted to go watch. We just saw Napoleon a few weeks ago.
You gotta live, bro.
And we-
Oh,
Tell me
the
about
first
it.
movie that I've seen. Okay,
I'll tell you what mine was. It was Interstellar.
Oh, that's got to be a
the
great
first
movie
movie
to
that
watch in
I've seen
IMAX.
in IMAX, partially because I had a deprived childhood, was the
Left
first.
Behind.
Dag. That's hilarious. That went straight to DVD though. It did, right?
That was going hard in the churches.
Scary.
That movie was going hard in all the churches.
Oh my goodness.
Platinum in the
it
churches.
was the first Transformers.
Ooh.
I think it was the first Transformers.
Really?
I think I saw it in IMAX.
That's gotta be a
That
cool
would have
one.
been nice to see.
I'm pretty sure it was that.
Michael
and then
Bay.
I also, it was. I think it was a Transformers one. If it not Transformers, it was Avatar.
Yeah. I've seen Avatar in IMAX.
But
I've never
Oppenheimer,
seen
man, when I say that movie was like, for me the movie of the year, fantastic cinematography, the perspective of how they like did certain shots and certain lightings.
Yep.
It spoke to me.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the behind the scenes on it. It's actually funny how I just haven't watched it yet. Partly because I'm, at this point in time, I look for movies that, and it's funny I say John Wick is my favorite. Look for movies that my boys can watch with me. They obviously can't watch John Wick with me. Well, they could. It'll just be a little bit too much for them at their ages. But that I look for movies that they can actually watch with me and enjoy at the same time that I can go back. It's funny though. A lot of the throwback movies that they have no history. And I tell them like, man, these are great movies. You gotta watch them. They're modern day kids. They don't know.
There's some classics, man, and especially if you love movies, there's some classic movies that I can go back and watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, 100%. Oh, now that too.
I'm a huge fan.
Not a fan.
What?
Oh, come
Not
on.
a fan.
Bro, those movies.
So that type of era movie, like those, yeah, I can't do.
Such a good movie. Such a
those,
good story.
Harry Potter's.
So nice storyline. See that. Well, I guess I'm on that in between where I love the Lord of the Rings stuff, but I'm not a Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is too much for me.
So,
No, but
That's witchcraft.
but all that, I can't get into it. Even like Game of Thrones, I couldn't get into it.
Game of Thrones is action.
Game of Thrones. I watched
like
Game of Thrones after the fact, not while it was live. I watched it after the fact.
That's a good show too. Even the new one.
I hear it was good, but just that, like that's a timepiece show. I can't do that.
See, I'm a history buff, so I love the history. Like anything to do with like a ton of history, I absolutely.
So we went to see Napoleon.
Oh my
because
gosh.
I love history too.
Yes.
Movie was trash though.
Are you serious?
It was so bad.
I'm glad I didn't see it.
Oh,
we were going to try to see it in IMAX because we were like,
wanted to see it in IMAX.
Yeah, I was like, it's got to have some action sequences. I mean, they had one that was pretty cool, but everything else was just.
It was
all right. That's
terrible. I was so disappointed because Joaquin Phoenix is such a great actor.
I think he did a good job though.
I think he needed to have an accent. First of all, time out. Let's go back. Let's go back for a second.
Yeah,
Let's go back.
You have to
Let's go back to Gladiator. He had an accent in Gladiator.
He did.
But Napoleon was from where? France, and he didn't have an accent?
He did not have an accent.
Terrible. Everyone else did though.
Yes.
Oh, you serious?
Everyone else did.
So how did that new
He didn't have an accent.
It was weird. It was just a weird.
So maybe on my top to watch.
It could have been a good movie.
They just did it. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Joker too. That might be a
I'll add that to
Joker
the list.
2 is coming out?
yeah.
With Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah, and Lady Gaga's playing like Harley Quinn.
I didn't hear about that.
I didn't hear about that piece though.
You can tell we love movies because we're going down this rabbit hole.
So
Hard.
look at it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Hard pivot. I'm curious. So how do you develop your team? Like the people that you work with?
So for me, I was actually talking to one of my team members about this today. Is my retirement gig? Oh, look at that!
Rocking the merch.
I appreciate that. Shout out to Rich and Red Truck Productions for producing all of our gear. He actually did this one as well too, which this is my favorite. But BYLT,
I have one of those.
Yeah, they're crazily expensive from a gear reproduction perspective, but all of our vinyl lettering and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Shout out
it's
to
a
Red
great
Truck
logo
Productions
too. I love the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that redesign was actually done from a friend of ours, Jason and Marlena.
Okay.
Marlena was actually the one behind redoing the branding for the Legacy.
Nice.
So all the lettering and all that stuff a few years ago. So shout out. I believe she's actually doing more of that work now when they moved down to Florida.
Nice.
So shout out.
Sweet.
Definitely
Shout out to
really,
them.
really good for the branding there. So developing the team, my retirement gig is to actually teach. That's like, to me,
Wow.
I want to actually teach for retirement. I love teaching, and so the developing for the team perspective, I take it from a teaching model. I'm a nerd in the fact that I love to learn everything. So for me, here's I'm gonna add a little bit of philosophy into it, and then come back in, is that colleges are developed as big business, right? So for me, I wouldn't want to go to college for the sake of being able to get a degree, earn a job, and so on and so forth. I would want to go to college for the sake of being able to learn whatever I want to learn and be able to apply it. So for me, like, if I could actually go from degree to degree just to be able to learn whatever I wanted to learn, that would be ideal for me.
Really?
So yeah. So if I wanted to be, if I want to learn medicine, so let me go to school to develop the skills and learn medicine, apply it, and go from there. I want to do that. Or I want to be an engineer to be able to do that. There's people where when you take the aspect of and when you kind of go back to the where's the many hats perspective, it's the fact that and some people put the connotation on if you are, what is it? It's the if you're not a master of one thing, right, then you don't develop the skills to be. I don't remember what the exact same thing is, but I think there's an advantage to learning enough about a lot of things. It doesn't mean that you need to live in those places, because there's a huge benefit to becoming a master and actually developing 10,000 hours plus in one specific thing. And for me, I think there's a lot of value. So I go and look like, how can I develop in one specific things? But then there's certain places, like for me, like in the industry of what we do with filmmaking and production, you can't just know one thing, right? You need to be able to do one thing well, but you need to understand a plethora of quite a bit of things. So you think about a director, right? Like Spielberg, like when he's thinking about a film and from the script, he has to understand the writing aspect. He has to understand the directing of an actor. He has to understand the lighting for the mood and the set to some extent and all. It doesn't mean he's the one doing it to the standpoint of the one, like he's the gaffer making sure all the lights and stuff is looking well, but he needs to understand when something doesn't look well.
He has to be able to paint the picture.
Exactly. Yeah. And so on. So that to me is one of the most perfect examples of being able to know a lot about enough to be able to do it. I don't need to know what that specific light is called, but I need to know, like, hey man, if this mood calls for a 3200 Kelvin lighting sequence, you need to be able to light it at that. And it's a moody sequence, so don't give me bright 5600K lighting. You know what I mean? You need to be able to understand that to a certain extent. So you have to kind of spend some time in there. So from that standpoint, I take that methodology of teaching with the team to be able to, for me, I'm the type of person where, have you ever met someone who knows enough about what they do, but they never want to show anyone anything? Like,
yes.
Yeah, keep it to themselves.
Exactly.
Terrible.
And
A lot of photographers.
Oh,
it's the weirdest thing.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, I'm not going to show you how I did that. And, you know, I'm like, your work is great, so on and so forth. So for me, it kind of goes back to the name. It's like, how do you build that legacy? And for me, that legacy comes from teaching. Like, people will remember the things that you teach them. People will remember the things that you have an impact in their life on. And a lot of it comes by, what did that person teach me? If you ask someone today, like, if I were to ask you the question, like what's the person you've learned the most from, or what teacher had the most impact in your life? You can probably remember that right off the bat. It was Mrs. So-and-so. For me, it was Miss Huba back from my 9th to 12th grade year, who taught me English, who I literally pressed the whole time and said, hey, I'm gonna get you to speak improper English. I account that I speak very well English, right? So that was one of my jokes with her, very well English. But I speak English very well because she taught me, and she spent the time to make sure that it was a point to make sure that Andrew could speak English very, very well, right? So, and she took a pointed interest in that. So I remember her up to this day. And I mean, I graduated high school in 2001? So that's a while ago.
Dang.
So, so go back to answer your question. For me, it's definitely, I take the teaching aspect of it because I want you to learn. So that also means you're going to mess up. It's okay to mess up. Right. But I'm going to teach you the right way to fix it. So I also say, like, ask the questions. You hear me all the time. Ask the questions. Like, if you don't understand something, ask the question.
Yeah. I worked on a couple gigs with you a couple times in the team. And first of all, I don't understand any of the equipment. I don't want to. And I always say that. I don't care to know what this microphone does, how it does. Yep. And my brother also works with you. And he's always trying to be like, yeah, so this Xerox 5500 does. I don't even think that's a thing. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't care to know that stuff. But I think your team is well informed in what the gear that they use, and they know how to articulate it well, and they know how to express, like, hey, this is what it does and this is how we use it. But
I think that's a perfect example of Alex is our lead A1, which is our lead audio engineer. So he has to know what this microphone is, what it does, its pickup pattern, what would I use it on, and things like that. Like, that is his job to know that, right? From that standpoint. So when you come and you help to augment the team, it's not your job to know about the microphone. It may be
I'm just a grunt.
You're like, I need to know how to screw the microphone clip onto the microphone and put a microphone here and there and so on and so forth.
Just tell me where to place it. I'm good. You don't got to tell me who created it, when, and how much. Like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to know. It's not my thing.
Exactly.
But that's cool that they know that you created a system and you created a space where they can be continuing to learn. They can continue to learn. You know what I mean?
The other piece on top of that is a couple years ago, I invest in a lot of learning tools for them because I can't be there to teach them everything. So I've invested as a company into a lot of learning tools that they can go online and go through courses and things like that. Where if I say, hey, we have something coming up and I need you to understand all this, they can then take the equipment, go into the studio and sit behind the computer, spend hours if they need to, and understand the ins and outs of it so that when we deliver for a client, they know the ins and outs. They've gotten the chance to play with it, to break it, to all of those different things that they do understand it.
Got it.
Nice.
That's cool.
Now, when you said you founded a company 10 years ago, now, has there been a difference from the company that you started, like maybe 10 years, 2013-ish, to the company that you have now? Like, did you go into it saying, I'm going to be an all-purpose production company, or I'm just going to be the best sound guy in the area? Was that like, what was your plan when you started, and how does that look like now?
Yeah. So
if you had one. Well,
so the company existed before it was just like a DBA. I LLC'd it 10 years ago. So it existed before. Most of the work was being done by me. The vision, though, that for the company was always to be a full production. So the legacy and the legacy sounds, where that came from and behind the name of it is being able to, whenever you come to an event, and that's what we strive for. So it doesn't always happen right in every event because you don't always have full control. But what we strive for is making sure that event that you attended leaves a lasting legacy in your mind. I'm really huge on remembering something. Great experiences drive great memories.
Oh yeah, for
so
sure.
that was for me is like, I can tell you like one of the greatest concerts I've ever been to was this because it drove the best sound and visual experience that I've ever experienced in person, right? So that was the vision behind it. Anytime someone goes to an event that's being, I would say, produced or done by Legacy, I want them to leave with memories that, man, that sounded great. Or, man, what they saw on the screen, that looked awesome. You know, that was the whole vision behind it. So that's what I always strive for. So that was always behind what we were doing and trying to do it. But the company has 100% morphed from what we were doing initially, you know, before versus what, you know, the stuff we've gotten into and we're doing now. And part of that was the main transition was video drove a lot of that transition. Because before we were doing stuff of like, hey, we'll come in and we'll do the full setup for the band. We'll do that. And we were very much sound specific and things like that. But as we built the experience in video and, you know, live streaming became a thing and all that stuff, and we were we had the equipment behind the scenes to be able to do it. That's where we started pushing into the, you know, video, again, that marriage of audio and video, and you can't separate them. It's an experience. And how do you drive that together? So, to when I look at like, there's a vision fast forwarding, like I'm always thinking about like, what's the next thing, right? So VR is huge, right? Virtual reality is huge. It hasn't, I would consider, taken off to the extent from the consumer perspective all the way down to being utilized to the extent where like live streaming is done today. But it's going to be one of the next things, right? So to be able to really drive where video and experience are taking, because now think about it, you can actually, so for me, the next level of watching a movie is experiencing a movie. So you could take a seat in that, right? So think about going into whatever they name it, right? Not an IMAX type theater, but where you are there and you are experiencing like kind of like the Jurassic Park ride, right? Where when the dinosaur breathes, you can feel it on your neck. That's the next level of VR, right? So not to throw a total tangent, but like the other piece of it where VR is part of it is the sensory overload, right? To some extent that you can give a person. When we went to Atlanta, we and I was actually happy to see this company, doing this level of development where they are they're the company that does, and we can probably tag in the comments their name. I don't remember their name right off the top of my head, but they do all of the set dressing and stuff for the Great Wolf Lodges all across the United States.
Okay.
So when you see like how the rooms, the Wolf Den rooms and things like that are set up, they do all of that.
Nice.
They have in development a 3D game or VR game that we got a chance to demo, which they were putting in to have it prototyped in some of the Great Wolf Lodges. Yo, the game is amazing. The fact, like, because it transports you, like you're literally just in a space like the size of the studio.
Wow.
And you're on the VR headset, you're walking around, it's a game where you're jumping from level to level of like this building, you're shooting things down and so on and so forth.
Oh, wow.
The amount of realism that your body feels, like, so for instance, I never moved physically from the ground, but when the ground shut off, I felt like I was on the ledge of a building. Like that's the senses. Like your body still felt. My calves felt like I was trying to hold on to.
We tried that. I had the Oculus, the Meta Oculus too. And there's a game that it's called Walking the Plank.
Oh my goodness!
And you just go up the elevator and you walk out. I'm just on the ground.
Exactly.
But you hear the noises, like the depth is real.
It's freaky.
And I'll tell you, the quality on the Oculus isn't great.
Not at all.
So I'm excited what Apple's going to do.
Exactly.
It's going to be crazy. You're going to be, it's wild. Huh?
That's the whole piece of it is like, so the next piece is the senses. And if you guys use your imagination, you can probably consider like what's the biggest industry that's going to use VR and sensing technology.
No.
Use your imagination. It's literally it's going to transport people to a whole different level.
You don't have to go to showings. You can just put on this little thing.
Good to go. There's the living room.
Okay.
Go from there. But yeah, so that I'm excited of the next level of where to go. So in our field, right, if we're not already looking at that technology, so for me, I'm thinking about how do events and this is none of this stuff is like secrets, right? So I look at like how can someone who is so like one of the greatest usage of VR technology are with people with disabilities, right? So one of the things that I was able to experience where you have a ton of artists who can actually be, let's say they can't physically hold a brush and be able to like paint, but they had the ability to do it. VR helps them to do it.
Oh, wow.
So where you can now come into a virtual world and through that, you can actually still paint masterpieces and still then send them out for an artist to still plaster it on the side of a building and things like that. Wow. VR allows you to do. So when you think about people who have certain disabilities, how can VR help them to experience being front row center to a large concert or to a conference that they either can't physically get out to, but they can physically still hear and experience everything like I was sitting in the front row.
I didn't even thought about that. That's a fantastic way to kind of
or even like for me, like the bird's eye view of like one of the things, and there's some companies who are doing it to some extent now, but for me, being a behind the scenes guy, right, is how do I would love to be able to think about having 20 something cameras set up on stage where I can choose any angle of the stage that I want to be able to see. So I can see a bird's eye view above the drummer, but think about it in a 3D setup where I can spin it around live in the concert while it's happening.
I've been seeing that on Instagram a lot. I saw it was some company did it for the Phoenix Suns, and they just had the basketball players come out, and they just did it with GoPros. They just put a bunch of GoPros around them. I think they had like 25. Yep. And they had Kevin Durant go through a shooting sequence. And right in the shot, it looks like an FPV drone is just flying around him.
That's crazy.
In the middle of his shot. It's the sickest thing in the world.
They did, if you remember, not last Super Bowl, but the other Super Bowl, they actually gave you that type of experience.
Yeah, was that the Sony? Was it a Sony cam?
I don't remember exactly, but you could jump into different angles. It didn't work as great as I think they wanted it to. Because I know for me, there was a lot of issues with like the refresh and getting it to actually show. But that was one of the cases where they actually did something like where you could actually see for the halftime concert all the different aspects.
Do you think they're gonna perfect it this year for Usher's thing?
Who knows?
Or not perfect it, but like have a better
grasp on it.
Technology has advanced enough where you can. So the issue for me is not the technology from the standpoint of filming it. That technology exists and be able to do it. The issue is the distribution of it. How do you get multi-millions of people to access this? And for me to be able to select a camera and scroll in one direction while you're able to select a camera and scroll in another direction and do all these different things, that's the barrier to entry from my standpoint.
Sounds like a crazy server that you need.
Yeah. And also above my pay grade because So I'm curious, right? So you keep saying you're behind the scenes, right? You're behind the scenes kind of guy. But we all go to the same church. But you're a pretty fantastic communicator.
Oh, praise God.
Where did that develop?
Man. Let me think. When did that start? I would say it was from church. So from very, very young on. So I grew up in a Pentecostal church. My grandfather was the bishop. And so from very early on, you start developing the skills to be able to present and do things in front of people. So whether that be from reciting Bible verses to giving a brief word on a passage and things like that, that began very early in what we call Sunday school, right? Yeah. So where you would go to Sunday school, you would learn your lesson. We call it, I don't know if in some of the depending on where you go, we call it, well, what's your golden text, right? So that's we had to go up and
That's
present
good.
in front of the adults. Like we had to repeat it. So we had to memorize that verse and we had to go ahead and repeat it. So from an early age, because of my involvement in church, I was always being in front of people, speaking, presenting, and so on and so forth. So it became something that was, just secondary nature, right? It wasn't something that and not everyone is like, but I wasn't afraid of it.
Yeah.
I'm the second youngest of 6 kids. So I was what I would probably call the talkative one in the bunch of all of my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So, that was, and I see the same thing in my youngest right now. My youngest, he'll talk to total strangers in the airport, man. Like, so sometimes I'll be like, yo, you got to be careful what you talk to them about. But so I was that same exact way. So because I never had a problem like talking. So I remember listening. So if you watch any of the behind the scenes from Usher and just because I've watched some of the behind the scenes and his masterclass stuff, and he talks about, he was the guy who at every single party was like, yo, let me sing for you. Let me dance for you and things like that. So he was always like, he was always looking for an audience. So when he talks in his masterclass about being able to cater to the audience, you can see in a lot of his performances, he's very audience centric.
Oh yeah.
And he drives after that. But that was a part of his demeanor growing up. He was like, anytime there was a party or a get together, he's like, yo, I'm gonna be in front of the people and I'm gonna tell them what to do, and I'm gonna showcase skills and whatever. So it not that I was that way, but I was never afraid
of it.
So early on, I developed not being afraid of talking in front of people and things like that.
That's good because you with that, most people that are behind the scenes, they typically are like afraid of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or uncomfortable with that. But you're like, no, you embraced it and you developed it, you grew it, and you're not afraid of that, which is cool.
And I think it's one of those things where it's important to understand. For me, I would say like the skills, the gifts, and the talents that God has blessed you with.
Yeah.
There's certain things that may come naturally, and there's other things you have to develop from that point of view. And I think it's good to understand what those are, so you understand what you need to develop and what you need to spend your time in, and all of that. So one of the things is technology was one of the things that came easy to me, like learning the engineering behind the scenes. I love that stuff. Like I could sit and like literally I could take that camera apart and then like sit for hours and work through the stuff and things like that. That was one of the things that was just naturally built into me. It's a love, it's a passion. So it's one of those things that I'm just like, that's one of the pieces that made the technology side of what we do became very easy. But then the teaching aspect comes in, then I forced myself to say, okay, if I were to teach someone how to put this back together, how would I talk to them about that? And how would I make it, for me, it's like, how do I make it be the simplest way? So, how do I take the fact that I know it, but how can I teach someone who doesn't know it the ability to do it, not having to understand everything about it, but just how to do it?
Yeah.
I mean that I love that you're huge into tech. Like you're the tech guy, and I think one of the things I've learned from you is embracing tech. So I want to ask you this question because I think a lot of business owners could learn from you. Because you use technology a lot for your business as a business owner. So can you talk a little bit about how you use technology to run your business? And when I say technology, I mean AI. You introduced me to, Google Qs?
Yep.
Stuff like,
Qs, yep.
Like how, talk a little bit of some of the programs or technology that you use to run your business. And I know there's a ton of them, but maybe talk of the top 3, because when it comes to automation, I mean, you every time, like, oh yeah, I automate this and I do that, even to like the doors in your studio. So like, I love that in every aspect of what you utilize technology.
Yeah,
and
even in your personal life, right?
Yeah.
So, that's where it starts. It all starts there.
So I'd love to know maybe your thought process behind that, and because really, there's a lot of business owners that shy away from technology because it can be very difficult. But a lot of the new technology has made it easy to learn and adapt. So I'd love to know your methodology behind that.
I think it's so for me, I always take the aspect from a business owner perspective as one, I can't be everywhere all the time. Right. So I look for stuff that's going to allow me to either replicate myself easily, to be able to be there. So like one of the simplest ways is that there's multiple people that come into the studio, whether they be to pick stuff up because they're renting gear or they're there for something like they're doing a shoot or something like that, and so on and so forth. So when you think about like that, the automation as far as door entry systems and things like that, that's the fact of it. It'll take me, it's going to take time out of my day to physically be there to open up for them, or it's going to take time out of one of our staff day. If they're somewhere else, I don't need to know that. There's cameras around. I can know when you arrive at the property. It can blink, come up and tell me, hey, someone is there. I see the camera. I see the motion. And then I could remotely unlock the door from wherever. So or I can give you a temporary code that you can unlock the door. I can assign that temporary code to you. So like first we use Lockly pretty much across the board. And then we use Blink with cameras with a combination of Simply Safe for our external cameras. And all of those, that literally does all of our like studio automation. So the recording, we have a ton of gear there. So it records everything happening around within the space. And then it allows us to do simple things as tell me whether a door is left unlocked, automatically lock the doors, remotely unlock a door. That just saves us time and not to also travel to a physical space.
Yeah, you don't have to pay an employee either.
Yeah, exactly. Because I have them on other stuff. Have them on other stuff. So it's also about how do we maximize our time, right? I don't need to have Juan travel from his house. He lives close to the studio, but it's at least 10 minutes from him to get out of his house into the car or leave a gig and go there just to open up the door for someone, especially if you don't need to sit there and babysit for a photo shoot, right? Mm-hmm. No. So we'd utilize that stuff to be able to make sure that it saves us time, it saves us energy and things like that. And then when you come to like applications, for me, the pieces of it with application is like, and I guess I do get deep in AI. I don't apply as much AI as I think I could with the business, mainly because I think it has to be, it just not has to be, but it needs to be a together journey with the employees to make sure that everything is automated across the board, because otherwise it's going to build some bad habits and you have to make sure that it drives it across the board. So for me, the first view is, how am I going to save time? From any business owner perspective, time should be the number one commodity that you should be looking to save.
Yes.
And anything you can do. So when you think about, we were just talking about earlier about, right after this, I have a consultation to look at changing payroll companies. And the driving factor behind that is that it was what we're doing today is costing me time. It's just that simple. It's costing me time and I need to use that time for other stuff. And it's a regular process that happens every 2 weeks that can be automated to the extent of where I don't need to see it except for when I need to go review stuff and go from there, or my accountant needs to look at it and I don't need to see it. So anything from that, like, I start from that viewpoint. Does it take away from my time, or does it force me to physically be somewhere, physically do a task that can be automated, from that perspective? So if I were to encourage any business owners, like for me, I look at it as like, look at the things you're spending your time on, whether you're sitting down and writing something, AI can help you write all the things you can write. So for instance, I just had another conversation with another business owner about templatizing their proposals for business. Like once you write that template once, you should just be able to go there and then cater it to another business. Like change the business name, add a little bit of personality to it. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more because of the type of contract you're trying to hit. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't need to do that again every single time you need to write a proposal. But there are business owners who sit down and do it every single time because they don't know how to templatize certain things. So I'm huge on templates, on how much you can reuse templates and things. And that's not just from like contracts and things like that. It's also from the standpoint of the work you do, like with video. Like I'm very huge on, like, think about it from editing. Editing is a series of repetitive tasks that you can do consistently. So for me, we always look at like when we're shooting today, I know you're looking at how can we set up where we shoot with to minimize editing. First, let's set up first to do that. And then from there, you want to put this out quick. So then you like, what other tools can you utilize to like, because it's the same sort of setup, right? It's a podcast setup, 3 cameras, 3 people talking. There's editing tools out there that can already pre-do all your edits, and you go ahead and preview them. So you launch that in, let them do it, and then go back there and you do the fine-tuning of the details and going from there. So it all goes back to time. From a business owner perspective, if you're investing time into one thing, it means you can't invest time into something else. It's just that simple.
I remember one time we were at when we were at East Mall. We were prepping for a gig, and you needed a piano, and you were like, I can go to the warehouse and pick up my piano, or I can go to Falsetti's and just buy a piano because I need it in the next 20 minutes.
So you bought the piano? Wait, hold up. You bought the piano?
I didn't. But it's what
thought
it
about
speaks
it.
to.
He was thinking about
It's
it.
the mentality, right? So
That's
like,
wild, bro. That's
crazy. So let me if you give me
makes
the
sense,
time.
though.
I don't know how we're doing for time, but
We got
a
like,
couple minutes.
yeah.
So let me I'm huge on, so I don't consider myself to be well off in any way, shape, or form, but one of the things I've studied is the fact that people who are more well off or who have cash and things like that, there's certain things they do for convenience because it interrupts their time. And I tell people, so like, I'm probably one of the most easy people to vacation with because I will spend money on things that are convenient. It's just that simple. Like, it's really that simple. Like I'm not going like, especially if I'm on vacation, like I'm here to rest. Like, and like, so if it's like, man, like if it means like, for instance, like we just went away on a vacation, and we had to fly out of Boston because I couldn't find a direct flight out of Hartford to get where we were going. And we were leaving super early in the morning. And I know, for instance, that I was going to be staying up the night before. So again, I'm driven by decisions and data and things like that go from there. So I'm like, we could drive to Boston, we could park in Boston. Airport parking fees in Boston are very, very high.
Oh my God! Yeah,
or I could hire a limo service to drive us out to Boston. I don't have to worry about parking. It takes me straight to our gate. We're gonna have like 5 or 6 suitcases. So the convenience factor for me and the fact that I'm not gonna get any sleep the night before. 100%.
I ain't driving.
I'm good. So from that, and then just from that decision alone, I met a really nice business owner who actually owned that limo company, who we're now having conversations about some other business ventures that we were talking about some innovations and things like that he could do with his company, and so on and so forth with that. But that sparked that conversation of just me deciding to go back.
Wow.
But that was birthed out of convenience. Now, could I have saved the money? Yes, I could have saved the money. But I looked at it from the point of view of I was still going to have to drive. I was still going to have to spend gas. I was still going to have to exert energy. And there was still an almost the same amount of money that was going to be spent on parking and all of that. So at the end of the day, I'm like, the no-brainer. Hire a limo service, drive us out there.
Not even Uber, a limo service.
Because so at the other piece of it, look at the prices of
Uber's
an
crazy.
Uber. And
It ends up being the same thing, though.
I will say in the area where we live, to where we were going, if I was leaving from Boston, that's fine. I'm leaving from Wilbraham, Massachusetts. Good luck getting an Uber to come out to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning to take us to Boston.
That Uber XL that you're gonna need, you're probably gonna have a minivan. And you know how we feel about minivans.
So, so it was one of those things where you do your research, you line up the pieces of it, you look at the convenience factor, you look at the dollar spend, and you choose the one that makes the most sense. And for me, that made the most sense. So you make decisions based on stuff like that. And I think as a business owner, you always have to challenge your mentality and your thinking to look at things like that. So for me, I was looking at the amount of time that we needed to deliver for a client, and the convenience factor of falsettis is right there.
Yep.
And I could have gone and bought a piano there that was going to do what we needed to do versus investing probably an hour to get out, go to the studio, pick up the piano, things like that. We would have been late to doing what we needed to do. Have a disappointed client, for what we need to do and go from there. So it's those decisions that you're weighing in your head to determine like which route to go. I mean, at the end of the day, not that I would have done it, but if I needed to, I could have used that piano for the same thing and returned it if you needed to, right? Because they have a return policy.
Yeah, but
it would still be brand new.
One thing I love about Andrew though, it's always he's always solution based. Like if there's a problem, already like the first answer is solution based instead of dwelling, and I love it. I love it,
dude. You have to. That to me, I think it's also the like you go back from a traveling standpoint, right? If you're stuck somewhere, do you want to be stuck with someone who's going to be crying about, oh my gosh, everything's over, I'm stuck? Or you're going to be wanting somebody like, all right, how can we?
What we're gonna do next? What's up? How are we gonna get out of this? Yeah. How are we gonna? Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta choose wisely who you vacation with.
Yes.
Just because you hang
That's
out
a
with
whole
people.
nother podcast.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna say this, and then we gotta end.
Never again.
Never. No, like you just gotta know exactly who you. Just because you hang out with them frequently here in your comfort zone, your
Tell the
city,
truth, bro.
doesn't mean that if you jump on a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour plane ride, that it's gonna be the same experience. Because it's not.
It's not.
It's trash.
Like
It's trash.
Like, listen, I love Zack, but I realize we can't share a room together because he's always cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's always cold. I like having the room cold. He likes being warm.
And I like being warm. One of the first things I do.
Warmer. A little warmer.
For the first
Just a
things I
little
do
bit.
when I go to somewhere and I see like the AC is like at like 60, 65. I'm like,
It
I'm gonna
doesn't
bump
need
that
to
up
be
a
like
little
that. It
bit.
needs to
That's
be
the
at
first thing
least
I do.
69,
First thing I
72.
go into the hotel
72
room.
maybe.
If I go to the hotel room, I bring the AC all the way down.
And I have asthma, so that messes with my lungs.
Nah, I'm in there.
You have asthma too. It doesn't
Let
really
me
make sense.
hibernate.
But in our reality, though, yeah, we very well can't stay in the same room together, but we can travel together.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
game. We know what we want to do. Hey, I want to do this. All right, I don't. I'm gonna stay out here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Man.
That's important.
But Drew, this has been a great episode. I want to have you back because I feel like
Anytime, man.
we only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people need to hear more about kind of your thought process and stuff because I don't think you don't really talk in front of cameras often.
No, I don't. That's a funny piece of it. Everyone says that because again, that goes to the behind the scenes. I don't talk in front of God. So you had to like call me to come on the podcast.
This is
for
a
me to
cool.
do
This is a cool.
So I don't mind it, right? The other piece of it is I don't have to invest in any of the work behind it, right?
No.
I could just come and be a guest.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
fine with that.
Yeah. I definitely want to have you back again in the new year because I feel like a lot of people can learn from you and what you have to offer.
Of course.
But I know you have to get out of here soon. Zach, do you have anything else?
For the win.
Let's do it.
For the win. All right.
win.
So it's rapid fire questions.
Yep.
It's basically this or that. All right.
Gotcha.
First
super
thing that
quick.
comes into mind.
First thing that comes to mind.
Gotcha.
Ready? First one. Smartest person in the world or the richest person in the world?
Which one would you rather be?
Which one would I rather be? I would
Smart.
say the richest person in the world.
Okay.
Reasons behind that, but yeah.
Yeah. French fries or onion rings?
French fries,
Photos or videos?
videos,
Painful truth or comforting lie?
painful truth,
Seeing the future or changing the past?
seeing the future,
Video meetings or in-person meetings?
in-person meetings.
Really? I didn't see that one
Me
coming.
neither.
Yeah.
I thought video.
I like the in-person interaction.
He did say that when going back to Mass Mutual. Education or experience?
Experience,
Roller coasters or water slides?
roller coasters,
Driving fast or driving slow?
driving fast, 100%.
And last one, pizza or Chinese food?
Chinese food.
Yes.
From where?
Ooh,
locally.
Great
So
question.
locally, right now, my spot is Main Garden over on Wilbraham Road.
I've heard that
Wilbraham,
one's
Wilbraham
good.
and Parker.
You know what
I've heard
what
that
I
was
like
good.
off of Carew or Belmont? I guess Carew. Main Kitchen?
I haven't had
It's
it.
probably the same. Well,
Main
I
Kitchen.
can't say
It's
they were,
right.
yeah.
It's right by across the street from I can't.
The Bank of America.
Yeah, that place is bomb.
I heard that.
I don't
that
think I've
place.
ever had from there.
I'm
Pretty
a
good.
Wong Wok guy.
That's disgusting.
I like their thick applesauce.
All right, guys, thank you for joining for the Winners Podcast. We love that you guys were here with us. That's gross. Wong Wok is disgusting.
I love it. Well, guys, real quick, Drew, before we leave, where can people find you, get a hold of you, all that good stuff?
Man, you can reach out directly on our website, www.legacysounds with an S at the end.com. You can find us on Instagram the same way and on Facebook the same way. Those messages come directly to me. I read all the messages, so don't be afraid to reach out. Even if it's to reach out to just chop it up and have a cup of coffee, but I don't drink coffee. It's Mountain Dew. You can drink the coffee.
Mountain Dew is life.
And I'll drink a Mountain Dew.
All right,
Yeah,
guys.
appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. You guys have a good one. Peace.
Peace.